Hello, hello, everybody. This is Steve Kazan, the moderator for today, and just welcoming everybody and having you all just hang with us for a few minutes. We're going to let a lot more people roll in the next 4 to 5 minutes. We have, I don't know, 60 some odd people registered. So it's a lot of folks registered.
We'll have a good crowd.
We'll have a boisterous crowd. And feel free, everybody, to in the chat, which should be open, put down where you're from and what your sales experience is. And if you've got any questions about, selling and what your challenges are and, what makes you nervous about selling. I think a lot of managed service providers are very comfortable with technical things, racks and stacks and servers and databases, but not great on, or not comfortable, maybe say, with pitching and selling. But it's a learned skill like everything else.
We're an industry of introverts, right?
Yeah, I've heard that. But I think even that can be learned.
Yeah.
I think, I was an introvert before I started to do training and standing up in front of people. And by the 20th session, I felt more comfortable standing up in front of the crew.
Yeah.
So,
No,
Kat, thank you. Welcome. Oh, here are more folks coming in. Hey, Jason. Pat, good to see you from Florida. All right, we're 2 minutes after, we'll give another 60 seconds and then we'll get rolling. We do have lots of content today. So hang on to your hats, get your pens out, maybe jot down some notes, jot down some questions. So feel free to use the chat area for questions if you have them. We'll try to get to some. If we don't get to your question, what we'll do is draft an FAQ, and we'll send that out along with a copy of the slides and a summary. Oh, Dan, of course, has a question right off the bat. Dan, if you could ask your question in the chat. Chris, thank you. Boston area, New England. Have not sold, so this will be good for him. Dan? Oh, all right. User error, raised his hand inadvertently. All right, it's 3 minutes after. Let's get rolling. Welcome, everybody. My name is Steve Kazan. I'm the president of the board of the National Society of IT Service Providers, your NSITSP. Today, we're going to have a fun and interesting session with James Kernan, and we're going to talk about how to turn managed service providers who are not typically known for their outgoing selling skills into super duper salespeople. And so it should be fun. It should be interesting. And it'll be focused on, your business and how to add, business through value-based selling. And I think the word value, we'll go through that, but that's really important. Anyway, next slide, please, James. So the logistics, just to remind everybody, we post the recording on the nsitsp.org website. So you can see all the recordings of all the webinars we've done, whether it's on hiring, whether it's on managing your people, they're all up there. So, have at them. We have a YouTube channel, so we post to YouTube as well, and you can see there. We will send a copy of the PDF slides out, probably end of today or first thing tomorrow morning. And please stay on mute so that we don't have any background noise and we have a good, solid, clear recording. And any acronyms or questions, again, just dump them into the chat. So next slide. So we always make it a point to thank our sponsors. And, here's a short list of the folks that sponsor and donate money. And we have also in-kind sponsors. So, if you have services and you want to talk about becoming a sponsor, just reach out to admin@nsitsp.org, and we're happy to have those conversations with everybody. If you happen to know a vendor that would like to be a sponsor, one of the vendors that you purchase from and have a good relationship, by all means, put them in touch with us. All right. With that, no further ado, let's hand the microphone over to James. James, please introduce yourself and get rolling.
All right, super. Thanks, Steve. It's great to be with everybody. I recognize some of the names out there. Looks like we've got a good mix of people from all around the country. So my name is James Kernan. I'm with Kernan Consulting. I've been in the channel for over 30 years. First half of my career, was just like you, a business owner or partner in a business, mostly on the sales and marketing side. But bought, sold, owner, ran 7 different tech companies in the first 15 years of my career. Had a successful exit and really stumbled into coaching, consulting. I'm an M&A broker. I run peer groups and I work with a handful of people one-on-one as well. And I love to train, teach, and give back to the channel. That's been so good to me. So it's an honor to be here today. So today I'm just going to go through quickly, really the content we have. I want to talk about the 5 principles of value-based selling. I'm going to talk about how to sell to CEOs, how CEOs think. That's really important. Whoops. And then value-based selling, the sales process itself. I want to show you guys the sales process to help you make sure that you've got your sales process documented. And then we're going to wrap up, as always, with questions and answers. Okay. So I'm just going to start off at a real high level with a simple sales strategy. And this is really a question for you. So in chat, go ahead and you can say yes or no, but how many of you out there have a documented sales plan or sales strategy? It could be your sales process. It could be a sales strategy. Does anybody have one listed? Okay. No. Okay. Nope. Yeah. So normally that is exactly what I see. Most of the time, people don't have it documented. And it gets real challenging when you have a team of people that are, following you. It's hard to get them to follow the process if we don't have things documented. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit today. The sales strategy, just think of it as an operational plan for companies, the sales team, okay, including you. And to me, it's not real unless it's written down. So I do like writing that down and sharing it with the team. Great way
Good
to
point.
train them. And then really the whole objective and goal is you as business owners want to optimize and get the most out of your team as possible. Sales teams, if for those of you that have salespeople, and another quick question, that's a yes or no. How many of you have salespeople that work for you, dedicated sales or marketing people? I'll just call them business development. We're going to guess mostly no's. Okay. Nope. 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 Okay. So in those cases, in many cases, just big picture in the channel, sales organizations are the most expensive department you have. Okay. And they're the hardest to hold accountable, but it's so important to actually have a documented sales strategy. Okay. So right from the get-go, I want to talk about selling from the top, and it's the importance of selling at the executive level, the CXO level, I call it. And another question for you. There's 2 parts to this. One, I just want to point out that you're selling from the top, and we're going to go down into the organization. I'll talk a lot more about that today. But the question I have for you is, how many of you have identified who your ideal customer or prospect is? Maybe demographic, size. Okay. Most of you should, or at least know what is a good fit, because be strategic. The days of you doing the shotgun blast with your marketing campaigns and hoping great prospects fall from the skies and just say yes to everything that you have to say, that doesn't exist anymore. And you need to be, instead of that shotgun approach, it needs to be more of a sniper. You need to be much more strategic with what we're doing and who our prospects are and who we're targeting with our messaging. Okay. Case in point, I'll just pick on everybody, including me. Think of your LinkedIn audience. Okay. LinkedIn is one of the social media platforms many of you probably market on a little bit. But do you feel like your LinkedIn audience, all the people that follow you, okay, do you think that all of them are ideal prospects? Mostly what it is family, friends, people you met at a conference. It's probably a lot of you from this group. And most of the time the answer is no. Okay. So think like that. We've got to be more strategic. We're not trying to sell to our family and friends. We're trying to sell to ideal prospects. So keep that in mind. We're going to start with that. Here's a quote that I came up with, and I love this, and I'm going to say it twice because I want you to understand. You build stronger credibility when you're talking to a prospect, and I'm talking about a meeting. Okay. You build stronger credibility with the questions that you ask rather than the answers that you give. Okay. You build stronger credibility by asking good questions rather than answering what they have to say. Okay. Both are important, but I think it's a lot more important to ask great questions so you understand their situation and sales statistics. And, this is an important thing to always remember. We've got two ears and one mouth for a reason. The majority of the time, you're going to be listening, okay, and the percentage, the golden percentage is you, the salesperson. You're meeting a prospect, talking to a customer. You want to only be speaking 40% or less, and the customer or the prospect needs to be speaking at least 60% or more. Okay. So remember that 40/60. And it's important that you try to keep that balance, because if you're talking a lot more than that, the chances are the customer or prospect's not engaged, and that's going to be a real problem. So, at a high level, the five principles I want to quickly talk about is really focus on the value of solving the issue for the customer. Okay. It's not how fast your server is or this cool software program. It's the value of you solving some type of issue, concern, or challenge that they have. Okay. You need to be very specific about the value that you bring to the table. Sometimes that's really hard. Okay. You need to create and capture meaningful value in every interaction that you have. You need to make sure that you start on time, you end on time, and you create value each time you talk to them. You need to understand their buying process, not your sales process. I'll talk about that briefly. And then the reality is at the end of the sales process, or as you go through, your time is so valuable. It's okay to qualify out and say, no, I'm not a good fit. Okay. That was really hard for me. I'm a people pleaser naturally. It's hard for me to do that. But when I started doing that, it either helped me get that deal because I was walking away and saying no, or if I really, really wasn't a good fit for them, it saved me a lot of sales cycles, saved me an enormous amount of time. Okay. So, real quick, how many of you understand and know what your unique selling proposition is? And what I mean by that is maybe you've written out, this is more of your elevator pitch. How are you different or better than the local competitors in your market? How many of you have gone through that exercise or understand what value you bring to the table that makes you different or better than your competition? Okay, yep. Okay. Okay, good. Good. It's hard. Most people, oh, I respond really fast. I'm super smart. My team is experienced. We've done this for a long time. We're fun to deal with. You know, of those five, the best one was I'm fun to deal with. All right. Everybody else is saying all the other things. And many of the times, those same people are failing that customer right now by not doing those things. So immediately the customer thinks all of those things are a lie. Okay. So it's really important. If anybody needs help with your unique selling proposition, because that's kind of the core foundation of today's lesson, just email me offline. I'll share with you an exercise. Happy to share that with the whole community for you to really define and improve your unique selling proposition, because that's important. Okay. So I want you to always focus on the value to the prospect of resolving their, I call it ICC, it's issues, challenges, and concerns. I try to never use the word problem when I'm talking to a prospect. A problem makes it, to me, it's a little bit disrespectful, potentially, could be viewed that way, that they have something they can't solve. So I like calling it issues, challenges, or concerns. So you want to make sure that's what we're focusing our energy on. Sometimes, make it really simple for the prospect. I remember walking into a sales meeting once, first meeting, and in one of my opening statements after the introduction and we had an agenda, I said, "Hey, look, I'm here to ask a lot of questions. I want to understand your business. And if I can't figure out a way to make you more money or save you more money with the use of technology in my team, then I'm wasting your time and I'm wasting my time." So that's why I'm going to ask a lot of questions, because I want to understand how you leverage technology. So that's something. It's an easy way of kind of thinking of where you fit in the value proposition. Okay, if the prospect doesn't understand the cost or the consequences of their issue and the value of you solving it, your chances of winning are low. Okay. So you want to kind of pay close attention to that as well. Um, and then don't assume the prospect is always fully aware of the costs and consequences and business impact. You're there to educate them. Okay. Some of the risks. I'm not a big fear mongering marketeer where, oh, if you don't buy my cybersecurity program, you're going to go out of business in 12 months. I don't like that kind, and that's not what I'm talking about. But make sure they understand the impact of their decisions, whether it's good or bad. And we're there to really focus on really educating them. And for all of you technical people, most of you are highly technical. I've always said you're the best salespeople in the room because you're not selling, you're educating. You're sharing your opinion, and all of you are super smart. You know technology frontwards and backwards. You're very passionate about it. Another key part to remember is people are paying for your opinion and your knowledge. Okay. And don't try to sell them anything. Don't get salesy. Just teach them what they should do. That's really what we're doing. Make sales a lot easier. Okay. And then lastly, despite all of our efforts, if they don't understand the value that we're bringing, sometimes it's best just to walk away. Sometimes it's best just to walk away. Okay. So number two, be specific about the value that you're bringing. Give the prospect space and time to really explain their current situation. Remember, at times, prospects aren't always going to tell 100% of the truth. They'll be guarded. They'll keep some things back. Maybe they lost data. Maybe they had a breach. Maybe they're embarrassed. So you need to ask lots of questions and maybe an assessment, right? Sometimes these assessments are needed, and then you could actually uncover a lot of things that they didn't know. So walk into that so you understand. And then remember, there's typically in the sales decision process, it's not one person who makes the decision. Sometimes it is. Most of the time, especially for larger organizations, there's multiple people involved and their needs are all different. So don't just go through the sales process meeting with the gatekeeper the whole time and then you give them your proposal and then you're done, because you're going to lose. And what you want to do is make sure you understand who's all part of the decision making process, invite them into the meeting. If they're too busy to come to the meeting, say, kindly ask, give me their contact info. I need to talk to them because they're part of this too. They're making a decision, and this project may or may not impact them. I want to understand what their concerns are. So try to talk to all of them. That's important. And then you always want to make sure that you understand their issue, okay, and that you're able to clearly articulate how you can solve that issue for them. That's the big impact, and that's where you need to be a great listener and ask lots of questions so you understand, the challenge. Okay. And then whatever your unique differentiators are, just make sure, do your very best. And this is really challenging. Try to align what makes you different or better than your competition to what their challenge is, because then very quickly, then you're gonna separate yourself from everybody else that may be bidding on this or chasing after the opportunity. Okay. And you always want to be very specific about your value in and make it different, if possible, for every different opportunity. All right, so let me jump into number three. I want to make sure I'll go through this quickly, but it's creating meaningful value in every opportunity. When you're meeting with executives, you need to be very respectful of people's time. You need to be on time and you need to show up prepared. Okay, that's probably the most important point of this. Take notes of what they're saying. When I meet with people, I like having good, strong body language. I don't put my notebook in front of their face and type notes so I can't see them. I like looking them in the eyes. I like having my shoulders square to them. And then I'll either take notes and kind of have my laptop on the side or the old fashioned way of just writing down notes. When you write down what they're saying, it's a sign of respect because what they're saying is important. And why it's important is because you need to have an understanding of what they're explaining to you. And more importantly, many of you have other team members that you're going to bring back this information and you may want to talk to them about. So make sure you're taking very good notes. I think that's important. And then respond to their questions, simply, directly, and completely. Don't try to be a politician and dance around the issues. You want to be sincere and genuine, especially when you're talking to the CXO level. Okay. So, some quick points about active listening skills. You want to make sure that you listen attentively and pay attention. So, you need to be on and focused on what they're saying. Remember that 40-60. We got two ears for a reason, right? Demonstrate professional body language. I just talked about the importance of that. Try to square up and, keep your back straight. Don't slouch or cross your legs or cross your arms. You want to be astute with your body and be strong and confident. Show that you're listening, take notes. And here's an important point, ask clarifying questions. You could say something and then they'll respond to your question, but then ask clarifying questions to make sure you really comprehend what they just said. Sometimes you could repeat the question and then ask them to elaborate. That to me is really important. Defer the judgment on what they're saying. And it's hard for especially highly technical people. Don't rush to give an answer. Be slow and methodical. That's what creates value. Okay. And then just respond appropriately and professionally. Okay. And normally you're not going to try to close the deal in that very first conversation with them. Sometimes you will. And I'm going to give you an example of that here in a minute. But, respond appropriately. And here's a question for everybody. Who do you think the smartest person in the room is? The person who's speaking or the person who's listening? Go ahead and type in chat. Oh, hey, Carl. Yeah, exactly. Okay. I kind of cheated and obviously I'm on the listening slide. So the smartest person in the room is the one who's listening. Okay. And remember that. You want to be a great listener. It'll make you a better salesperson. So sometimes the prospect doesn't understand the real issue. It's really your job to ask enough questions, complete an assessment if necessary, and then you diagnose. You're the doctor, you're the consultant, you diagnose the solution for them. Okay. All right. So, principle number four, it's a quick one. Really just understand their buying process. Some of the clients that you might work with might have a board. Okay. And the board only meets once a quarter when they make decisions. So, you're not going to try to rush them through a 1 week sales process and then get them to say yes. Ask what their process is. Make sure you understand that and what stages they have to go through. Try to keep it personable. You want to make sure you're asking open-end questions when you're going through the process. Always make your discovery conversational. You don't want to be robotic and go through a checklist. You want to make it as conversational as possible. Okay. And this is why this step is so important because there's key stages in the sales process that you need to make sure you understand the customer's milestones and what their process is and kind of blend them together. Okay. I gave you a perfect example with maybe someone that has a board and they can't make decisions but once a quarter. So if that's the case, you need to know. And then the final one I've kind of hinted at already. If you've gone through all of this and you've met them and you feel like you truly are not a good fit, they don't understand the value proposition that you're bringing, or they're just wanting to rush just to a price, and you've done your best to educate them on what they should do, just walk away. It's so much easier, and I've wasted so much time in my life and in my professional sales career of, oh, I'm good, James. I'm going to talk them into it. I just need to meet with them one more time. I'm going to meet with them two more times. And normally, if you get to that point, it's best to walk away. And I'll show you why here in just a minute. Okay, so here's a big picture tip. Always remember this. You're always trying to sell the problem or issue that you're solving, not the product. You're not there to talk speeds and feeds. You're going to talk about resolving their issues and challenges and concerns. Okay, that's part of the value proposition. Okay, so a little bit more of selling to CEOs. Be prepared, be confident. Executives. It's something that you learn. I've met with so many business owners in my lifetime. Talking to businesses are just, it's so casual and easy for me now. Hey, how's your year going so far? You guys profitable? What's your most product or most profitable service line that you guys are doing? Or what does the next 12, 24, 36 months look like? Or you guys plan on growing, staying the same? What's your strategy? You want to have a good conversation and understand those things, and speak business language to them. Again, not technology. They like talking, executives like return on investment or total cost of ownership. And again, I like trying to be as personable as I could. I historically wasn't super technical like many of you, so I couldn't rely on my technical acumen, but I was always a relationship salesperson, and that's really important. People have to like you, trust you, and know what you do in order for them to say yes to what you're selling. Okay. They have to like you, trust you, and know what you do. And to me, being resourceful, being personable, understanding something, maybe where they went to college or what they're passionate about. Oh, their LinkedIn profile has a picture of them golfing, or maybe they're a family man and they've got a picture of their family. Find what you have in common and use that as the common denominator to get more personable and talk to them. Okay. A little bit more about how CEOs think. I've talked about this. Make it a business discussion, not a technology discussion. CEOs always talk about results. They don't like talking about the process or the features and the benefits. Okay. CEOs don't buy things, they make investments. Okay. Either I want to do this if I can make money or save money, or it doesn't make sense, right? They make investments. CEOs also make decisions far faster than any other person in the company. Okay. They're much more spontaneous if they know that this is the right thing for them to do. The other thing to always remember is price is normally secondary, okay, to the CEO. They're looking for the best value proposition. Okay, so you don't have to be the cheapest. You don't have to sit there and do horse trading, bartering with them. Make sure you explain what the value is. Okay. CEOs have very short attention spans. So when you have the opportunity to talk to them and give them your 30-second pitch, you better be practiced up and ready to go, because they're the first one to hang up on you if you're making a bad cold call. All right. So they have short attention spans. So get to the point. Don't beat around the bush. The CEOs have the most at risk. They have the highest stakes. Okay. And again, the CEO is usually the only person in the company whose job it is to think about the future. They're normally the visionaries. And think about it, a CFO is thinking this quarter's results or this month, making money, or how much is this going to cost? Marketing is thinking marketing, sales, what am I doing now? All the other executives are kind of thinking short term. CEOs think long term. Okay, so think like that. The fourth point, are you prepared? Have you earned the right to go meet with that prospect and the customer? Show up prepared, do a little research online, go to the website, look at the press releases, understand that they just bought another business, and then go in with ideas of, oh, I saw that you just bought another business this quarter. How is that migration coming together of you blending the environments together, the cultures and so forth? Bring value, bring ideas. All of you are bright, smart people. If you come in prepared with ideas, whether it's a great one or not, at least you're thinking ahead. That's what executives are looking for. They want ideas from people. Okay. They don't want you to come in and plop down and go, hey, take 45 minutes out of your day and tell me, you know, what speeds and feeds you have on your computers and if you have any problems. They don't have time for that. Okay. And then make sure that you've got the ideas on things that may be issues, concerns, and challenges. Okay. So here's a documented lead process I just want to share with you. This will be part of my deck for everybody. If you don't have a documented lead process or a sales process, you'll get that today. But over here on the left, when a lead comes in, somebody raises their hand because they were on a webinar. They raised their hand off of, they hit your website and made an inquiry, or they gave you a phone call. You need to reach out to them as fast as you can, call them, email them. You do whatever you need to do as fast as you can to establish contact. Once you've established contact, yes, then you qualify them. Normally, you ask questions. You want to qualify the prospect. Is this I fit my ideal customer profile? Are they within the geography of service that I'm looking for? Can I scope what their needs are? You want to ask those questions to me normally right over the phone or maybe a quick Zoom meeting, ideally. If they become qualified, then you create an opportunity and then you go through your documented sales process. My whole point of this is in most every road where they're not ready, they're not qualified, you lose the deal, or you can't establish contact, I'm going to keep marketing to them. I'm going to take that phone number and the name and their address, and I'm going to keep my marketing campaigns. I'm going to keep dripping things to them because they were interested in something at once upon a time. And maybe 1 or 2% of the time, if you get a hold of them and it's just maybe it's someone unethical that you do not want to deal with and you are absolutely positive that you'll never sell to them again, we'll take them out of the database. But in the 98 percentile, put them back in the database and keep marketing to them. And it's kind of a funny thing, but the way I used to think as a sales professional is, hey, sooner or later, you're going to be a customer of mine because I'm going to keep marketing to you for the rest of my life. Give me a shot. Give me a shot to earn your business. You won't be sorry. So, all right. So let's talk about the sales process. I'm going to go through this. So this is what the value-based sales process looks like. The big picture. This is the traditional sales process where you start with prospecting. That's what's called a marketing qualified lead. When somebody raises their hand and they're interested in something that you have, that's a marketing qualified lead. The second part is what I just talked about, maybe on the phone or over Zoom. You're uh, you're qualifying them. Once they become a qualified opportunity, then it's an SQL, right? That's the difference between the MQL and SQL. The first typical appointment where you get face to face with them is normally that needs analysis. I'm going to walk through what that looks like real quick, but typically it's an introduction. You talk about you a little bit, you talk about them a lot, you ask lots of questions. Your hidden agenda is really to push for an assessment if it's a complex environment and learn more about them. The next meeting typically is reviewing that assessment, going over the value proposition that you bring to the table, give them a couple ideas, good, better, best. I don't like coming in with one idea. I like having three good, better, best ideas. You get them kind of boxed in. And then the third and final meeting is normally that proposal presentation where you're explaining, hey, here's what we're recommending after meeting with you. Okay. Quickly negotiate, you close the deal. But who wants to just sell one thing to one customer and then walk away? I hope nobody. So the eighth and final step is that QBR or technology business review. You want to meet with them on a regular cadence to keep them sticky as a client and to continue to sell them other stuff. Okay. So at a high level, that's what that looks like. Now, something that we've uncovered kind of post COVID is more and more end user customers are becoming educated on who managed service providers are and what value we bring to the table. If you find an opportunity, maybe it's smaller, less complex, they know what they want, they've had a managed service provider before, maybe they're shopping, maybe they've had an issue, then you could consider coming in with this shorter sales process. And this is prospecting, that's the marketing qualified lead, qualify them on the phone, then you go meet them. And if it's a simple opportunity, you don't need to go through all those other steps. Just give them a proposal. You could give them an idea of what your pricing is right in the get go in the first meeting, and you propose and close right there, and then they become an ongoing customer. I'm going to show you an example of that here in just a second. So, prospecting, if I'm interviewing a salesperson, one of my favorite questions to ask them is I go, hey, walk through what your sales process is. If the salesperson does not say prospecting, then that's a big red flag to me. Because great salespeople, if you ever hire them, again, it's a great question to ask. They need to be expert prospectors. Okay. Uh, y- they shouldn't just rely on you flipping them leads when they come in off the website or whatever marketing campaigns you're doing. That's really hard to do. They need to be doing some of their own prospecting. So that's important. Um, when a prospect comes in, it might be a marketing person. They hand it off to sales. Sales qualifies them, and then you're going to want to enter the prospect in your CRM tool. Or the prospecting part happens on this first call. I already pointed out you want to reach out to them as fast as you can, understand their basic needs, make sure they fit your ideal client profile. You want to set up a meeting with them. And when you send the email invitation to go meet with them, and this is a question for you, so go ahead and type a yes or a no in chat. How many of you send an agenda when you have a first meeting with someone? I like sending it ahead of time, and you could put it right in the invite, or you could bring a hard copy along with you. But how many of you give an agenda? Okay, yes, no. Okay, kind of mixed. Okay. I would highly recommend giving them an agenda. If you're meeting an executive and they're busy, they want to know what we're talking about. And I always like saying in the email invite, hey, I kindly attached an agenda of what I think we need to talk about. If there's anything else that you'd like to add in that 30 minutes, please let me know. You confirm via email, update the CRM, you're going to go meet with them. And this is optional whether you're going to send a shock and awe email to them. It could be a package that you're sending like a gift of credibility. Maybe it's a book that you've co-authored. Maybe it's some white papers that you've written. Maybe it's a list of certifications or credentials on your company, a press release. That's typically what's a shock and awe. I like that. When you have the ability to do that ahead of time, then you save yourself about 10, 15 minutes in the first meeting of trying to build that credibility. You want them to know that you're a credible source if possible. So that very first meeting, I'm going to walk through this at a high level, but typically you want to follow the agenda. You just do some quick introductions with everybody. You're going to quickly talk about you. You're going to ask a lot more questions about them. If they let you, you want to do a walkthrough, like go visit the server room and then talk about next steps. Sometimes I listed here, complete the sales questionnaire. It's just a series of conversational questions that you normally ask your prospects based on why you're there. And I like having a list of those ahead of time. Don't don't check the boxes as you're going through that. Just know those in your head and write down the answers. I think that's important. You really want to identify, any issues, challenges, or concerns, or just ask, why are you there? Why did you invite me to come in? Has there been a challenge that you've had? If everything's going great, to me, that's a red flag. If there's no reason for them to switch what they're doing today, you want to identify what that is. Okay. All right. Here's a really quick example. It's not rocket science. This is an example of what an agenda could look like. Introductions, about us, about you, maybe a quick tour, and then next steps if applicable. The 30-minute meeting, that's it. That would be a quick example agenda of what it looks like. And at a high level, I want you to see, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but when you meet with your prospect for the first time, you have a captive audience. You want to try to get as many people in the room as possible, but you'll have a captive audience. Rarely do you have a captive audience where they want to hear about you in the other meetings. That's normally, it doesn't work that way. So take 5 minutes. This is 7 slides. I'm going to do this in about 2 minutes. I'm going to walk through what an example would look like. Okay. Here's my agenda. I'm going to talk about the background of the company, where we're located, what our team looks like, some of our credentials and capabilities, our core values, trust, integrity, truth, and what our goal is to help you. Here's our portfolio of products and partners that we have. We sell and support over 1,700 manufacturers, but here are the big boys who we go to market with. Here are a list of our satisfied clients. These are mostly some of the big clients that I've worked with in Southern California. And then this is what our service portfolio looks like. You know, the acronym CTO, consulting, technology, outsourcing, these 8 core competencies that we have as a business, you know, cloud consulting, server storage infrastructure, Microsoft consulting, IT staffing, our help desk is our managed services group. We do voice, cybersecurity, and then, of course, product acquisition services. That's it. Okay. That was very quick. You don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it, but even if you know you're there to talk cybersecurity or you're there to talk managed services, big picture, you want them to understand you do a lot of other stuff. Okay. I know I went through that quick. In the chat, I want you just, what's your perception of those 7 slides? Give me what you liked or what you disliked about that. Go ahead and type in chat. I'm going to wait a minute and take a look at, you know, what were your thoughts when you saw the pictures, when you heard the capabilities, when you saw some of the logos? What perception did you get? Is this a big company, a little company? Do they know what they're doing? Is it old school? Okay, simple, to the point. Good. All right. I probably went through this too quick, but the picture of the building that you saw, and it was when I was talking about us, it wasn't their little crummy, you know, 750 square foot office that 10 people are crammed into. That was a picture of the data center where they host all their clients. This was an actual presentation I wrote for a client of mine and put this together because they didn't have one when they went into a meeting. Okay. They didn't have their message very clear. So to me, I wanted it professional. I wanted it to make them look like they're a lot bigger and stronger than they really are. And they are because they're leveraging their outsourced partners, their distributors, the manufacturer partners, and even like the network here, the community that we have together, we're better. And if you're out there presenting yourself, oh, it's me and 2 technicians, we don't have an office because I can't afford one, whatever, you know, who wants to buy from that person? You need to have a professional presentation. And I wanted to emphasize that real quick because that could be something that you bring to the table that makes you unique. All this is truthful, but the reality is they did have a little crummy small office in an ugly building. That was a picture of their data center. And they did have 8 engineers, but they also had access to a service network that gave them capabilities to another 1,000 resources. Okay. All right. Here's one other thing I wanted to go through really quick. This is when a customer knows what they want and you're in that first meeting and they're kind of like, hey, you know, we only have 10 users. It's not a complex environment. We don't need to do an assessment. Then it's okay, in my opinion, if a customer is educated on managed services already, then give them what your pricing is. And here's what we created in our peer group that worked really, really well. We created a brochure. A lot of guys use, you know, their own colors, their own fonts, their own pricing. But this is a hard copy, professionally printed brochure that had pricing on the services if it was managed services or backup. And I'll just walk through it really quick. This is the cover page. This is the welcome letter from the president. These are essential IT services. This is more of your remote monitoring. This is the reactive help desk. This is the managed cybersecurity offering. This is the backup and disaster recovery. Those are all core services. All of you probably do. And then this was their command console, you know, how to do business together. This broke down what the pricing is for each of those 4 service offerings. And then the last page was just a price estimate. And you'd just sit down and go, okay, you have 10 users, so that would be 590. Do you want the help desk when there's a problem? Do you want us to respond or do you want us just to notify you? Okay, you want help desk, that's another 590. Well, you're in a regulated industry, you're in the finance or medical office arena, so you do need cybersecurity. We're going to add that. We need to back up your data. And oh, if you buy all of it, then there's a discount. When we presented pricing in this manner, very rarely did people start haggling. I don't know how to explain it, but we've all given proposals. We spent hours in multiple meetings, and then all of a sudden they start haggling with you. And in this instance, where it's published in a brochure, we found that a lot of times they just said yes and we moved on. And it was propose and close in the first meeting. Okay. So, my point of that is make it easy to do business with you. Just make it simple. You don't have to have 3 meetings and go through an assessment on every single opportunity. If it's a simple one, use this new value-based sales prospect or process, prospect, qualify, first meeting, propose and close, boom, you're done. Okay. And then you can create that ongoing relationship like all of you should meet with them on a regular basis. Here was the big picture sales process. If it's a bigger organization, more complex, they don't know what they have, they've had lots of problems, then you're going to want to go down this path. And the key is really that assessment. A lot of great assessment tools. A lot of people that I'm working with are speaking very highly of Galactic Advisors. Um, that's a good tool, really simple. It's fast to diagnose a couple desktops, maybe for the executives, and then come back with that data and then sell to it. Okay. And then just some closing tips, be careful to identify your ideal customer. Don't chase people that aren't a good fit. Always start at the top if you can. You want to make sure you're talking to the right person. And then remember the quality of your offer equals the quality of the response from the prospect. Okay. And then always determine urgency and timing. That's one of the big reasons all of you should have some type of expiration date on your proposals. Okay, so there's a ticker going, especially in today's crazy times with all the tariffs. You can't lock in pricing very long. Your distributors are all doing it to you. Make sure you have an expiration date on all your proposals and don't make it too far out. Okay. My last slide really is to the importance of this. If you do these things, you're going to beat 50% of your competitors right out of the get go. This was something I learned a long time ago. Just follow through on your verbal commitments. If you say you're going to meet a customer at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you better be there at 5 minutes till. Okay. Think before you commit. If somebody's asking you to do something you know you can't do, don't be a people pleaser and say, yeah, I'll try to. You say yes or no, but you need to think about it. Think, before you speak. Write it down. If you're an old guy like me, you need to write it down, put it in your calendar, put it in your phone, put a reminder, and make the reminder before the deadline. To me, this is the most important part. If you see, if it takes me 30 minutes to get to an appointment and I'm 15 minutes away still, and the meeting's getting ready to get started, you need to try to renegotiate and give them a heads up you're running late. Okay. You need to do that before the deadline. If you promise that you're going to send a quote to someone by 5 o'clock tomorrow and you know you're not going to get it done, you call them and say, hey, I'm not going to get this done. Some things came up. I've got to run, but tell you what, I'll get it to you by tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Is that okay? They're normally always going to say yes. And that prospect's going to remember that you follow through on what you said you're going to do. Okay. So that's it. That's a wrap. Steve, I'm going to hand the floor back to you to open it up for questions.
All right, we do have some questions that have rolled through, James. So thank you very much for the presentation. For folks in the audience, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we'll take them. One quick question at the top was, you talked about an assessment. I've heard recently of MSPs running workshops. So what they'll do is they'll get the technical staff together in a conference room with a whiteboard, and then they'll go through several hours of like a planning exercise. my question is, what's your experience been with that kind of process? Does it work? Are there any tips or guidelines on driving business from doing a workshop?
So would it be a marketing event where you get your engineers in front of several prospects and customers and
Not
do
necessarily. I think it's a single client that you're talking to, but it's multiple people within that client. And sometimes it's a meeting and sometimes it's over lunch, but it's in a conference room. So you're talking understanding their business, understanding their plan, understanding their strategies related to
okay.
whatever it might happen to be in
All right.
IT.
So I like the idea. It's creative. It's different. My experience and as a sales professional, and I used to, we'd be in that first meeting, and I'm asking lots of questions. My engineer here would want to jump up and whiteboard out a solution right then and there, and I would trip them and tackle them and pin them to the floor and make them sit back down because you're not creating value if you just sit there, answer all their questions and whiteboard it out and show them how to do it. If you hand it over to them on a silver platter, the odds are they're probably going to go try to do this themselves. You know, you could do maybe a. I like qualifying the opportunity, and let's just say maybe it's something where they need to test it to make sure that it works. Is it compatible? Something like that. Maybe do a try and buy
Yeah.
where you're charging them something, or you get a commitment. Hey, if I resolve these three issues that you have, and we show that this works, and we architect this right, I want a commitment that you're going to buy, because having a meeting like that's expensive. And
Yeah. No, that's right. You're right about that.
yeah.
So next question, you talked about selling to CEOs and you've profiled the CEOs. Um, what about talking to other people, CIOs, CFOs? How do you tailor your presentations to different audiences that way?
So remember, all of them are different, and I think really that's the key to your question. I explained what CEOs look for. CFOs, chief financial officers, are looking at the dollars. Chief operating, are kind of looking at how are we going to support this. What does that look like? you know, uh, Chief marketing officer, is just going to generate more leads. They all have different agendas, and the impact of this project is going to affect them in different ways. I like interviewing them, or at least if my first meeting is with a CFO, I'm going to talk more total cost of ownership and return on investment. I'm going to talk more numbers. I'm comfortable with that, and I would try to take it from that direction. And it's a great question because I'm not saying that you only take the meeting if you can meet the executive or the CEO. It's rare that you get that, but normally you're much more able to win the opportunity if you're meeting with the CXO suite. So just remember the questions that you ask and how you respond to things. Try to cater to the impact of their department and their position. I hope
Got
that
it.
helped you.
Okay. So you talked about trust and at the NSITSP, we think trust is maybe the most important variable.
Yeah.
And we think having a code of ethics and a code of conduct that you build your business around, you build your culture around, you share with your prospects. We think that's very important
Mhm.
and it can differentiate your business and lead to success. Um, and the question is, what are some other ways of building trust kind of in your marketing and your advertising and your events and your, that you suggest?
So there were two quick examples that I demonstrated right there in my quick presentation. Number one, I went through the core values very quickly. Trust was one of the top core values in the organization. If I was doing a real presentation, I would have said trust and then what that means to me and why it's important. So I always talk about trust, and I like having your core values in your opening presentation to a prospect. The other thing is I talked about trust in a different way, like a respect of you following through on what you say you're going to do. Guys, it's a lot harder than you think. I went through that really quick. And this isn't just something you can do to become a better salesperson. This is something you can do to be a better leader and a better human being. to everybody that you work with, just think about what you're committing to and be really careful. Any of you that know me, Carl, other people out in the audience, I'm very deliberate with what I say and what I will promise I'll do. Um, and I'll wordsmith things if I'm not sure, or I'll give myself an extra buffer, because following through before the deadline of what you commit, to me, is one of the most important qualities that we have as human beings. It's really important. And I had a salesperson once that was sitting at the water cooler conversation, and it just, I overheard it. And he said to someone, he goes, "Oh, I'm not lying. I'm selling," is what he said. He goes, "I'm not lying. I'm selling." And I went, "Oh, hey, stop real quick. Hey, um, you never lie to a customer. You could spin it, right, or point out the positives in something negative that you have to say. You wordsmith it. That's okay. You don't want to mislead or deliberately ever lie to people, because once you lose that trust, you just
Yeah, it's
lost a
gone.
customer. You're gone. It's
Yeah,
gone.
it's very fragile. All right, so let's flip through this next couple of slides because we are
Yep.
going to wrap up here.
Yep.
All right, so I took 15 top
Oh boy.
lessons learned. But if there were three, James, um, my three were: write it down. So
Hmm.
your sales process, you know it right off the top of your head, but writing it down.
It's a good one.
Um, I think that to think like a CEO and
Hmm.
profile the CEO, that was my main big takeaway. And then the last one, of course, is trust, right?
Yeah.
Do what you need to do to build that trust. What do you think are three for you, James?
I like those. Just big picture, define your ideal customer profile. Remember, we're not marketing shotgun anymore. We're marketing like a sniper. We need to be very specific. So understand your unique value proposition you bring to the table, who your ideal client profile is, and then document that process. Because again, if it's not in writing, a lot of times it's not followed, and it's really hard to hold people accountable if things aren't in writing and they don't understand it.
Got it. Okay. And then the last couple of slides, real quick, things to do tomorrow morning, bright and early. Um, I guess I would say communicate your sales process across your organization,
Hmm.
right? Make sure everybody in the team knows what that is, what that looks like. Um, and give me a shot to earn your trust. I think that
Yeah.
stood out. So figure out a way to do that.
I like that. And then that golden nugget I gave everybody at the tail end, I'm just going to say that one thing. Just follow through on your verbal commitments. Be deliberate if before you say yes, make sure you can do it, write it down so you don't forget. If you're running late, renegotiate and
Yeah.
follow through and get it done. It's the
Yeah.
key to building trust.
All right. Last couple of slides are plugs for the NSITSP. Please, if you're not a member and you sat through this presentation, by all means, you should sign up because you just got your money's worth for your annual dues, at least, and then some. So the sites are there, the QR codes are there. If you have your phone handy, take a quick snapshot. We have lots of other events coming up. Um, if you go to our events page, the nsitsp.org/events, we've got some great cybersecurity events. We have an all hands meeting coming up. Next week, we have a presentation on why you should join and why you should volunteer and participate and why you should partner with us, like James has partnered with us.
Mhm.
So that's my plug. Next slide is where the recording is. So we put all our recordings under meetings. And so this recording will be there as well as on the YouTube. So keep going. And we'll email out a link as well. And here's some more links. And the last slide, I think, is James's contacts. No, maybe
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. I listed that earlier,
All right. So
but
that's here too. So with that, we are at 10:59. Thank you, everybody, for sharing your time with us. Thank you for participating in the chat. Really great stuff. Very practical, hands-on. Um, Yeah, we love to see the hearts coming up for you, James.
Thank you.
And, we'll send out the follow-up and we'll see you guys on the next session.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Happy
Thank
selling.
you.
Yep.
I think everybody bailed.